Hi, everybody. Welcome to a very special and unique episode of the Messages of Hope podcast. I'm coming to you from El Paso, Texas, where I am traveling across country. And I was recently interviewed by a woman named Danny Blitz. She has a program called SUPERPOWER based on her film, SUPERPOWER. You can find out more about her at superpowerfilm.com. But the interview was filled with questions that her community had submitted to Danny. And she just gave them to me one after the other, rapid fire questions. And I went to Sanaya, my guides, to get the answers, as I always do. And as we were doing it, I thought, these are exactly the kinds of Q&A that my community likes listening to. So with Danny's permission, we're simply sharing with you now that interview, because you might not have heard about it. So this is your opportunity to hear the answers to more questions, some of them very unique to those of you who are new to this whole spiritual path and the Awakened Way teaching. I know that you will resonate with some of the questions, and hopefully the answers open your heart and open your mind. So enjoy the show.
I am so excited today to have our guest with us. This is your first time, isn't it? Suzanne Giesemann, who is a retired Navy commander and evidential medium. Never would one necessarily expect the two shall mix. So I'm just thrilled that you're here. Would you please introduce yourself a little bit further, Suzanne?
Yes, Danny, thanks. Hi, everybody. Good to be here. And as I read your mission, it's just perfectly aligned with my mission to help people know that we're part of something so much greater, that we're not only human. So I was very left brain my whole life, didn't know there was a greater reality until the death of my stepdaughter caused me to start meditating daily. And because something in me knew that I could connect with her. I have no idea at the time where that came from, but now I know that we are all souls. And that daily meditation opened me up to the absolute certainty that we're connected to one field of infinite intelligence, and we can tap into that. So I'm sure that that's what we'll tap into today. And there's so much more I could talk about, but I'll let you guide the discussion. How's that?
You know, we went back and forth, not very much, but just about, a discussion about what our program would be like, what it would look like. Of course, naturally, people are thinking, ooh, can I talk to my grandfather who passed away? And Suzanne said, the way that we do this is that you have a guide. And am I pronouncing it right? Sanaya?
Sanaya is a collective consciousness of guides. It's a group that changes now and then. Sometimes it's one person across the veil. Other times it's a group, but I just tap into them and they provide the answers that I need. When I'm asking generic questions, when I connect with people's loved ones who have passed or their guides, that's a direct connection. That's
right.
Separate.
Mm-hmm. Right. So that's why we needed to ask more general questions about specific topics. We had a load of very different questions all across the spectrum come in. And I'm thrilled that people are thinking of these things and are excited about the opportunity. So thank you for being here. We're all sitting on the edge of our chair, I think, especially for those of us who submitted a question. And I'll do my best, everybody, to get to your questions. And some of them, the way that some of them came in may be worded a little differently, or to capture maybe a few questions in one, that sort of thing. So hopefully you'll hear the answers that you came to hear. We had different topics such as afterlife and the higher self and the soul, and intuitive and psychic abilities, evil. That is a big concern today. And we had some current affairs that we're going to kind of put on the side and really just talk more about the spiritual realm of things. So since it's kind of a direct connection with the medium, the afterlife, let's just start there. Let's start there. So do you need to do anything special, or can we just dive in?
I would like to just explain for a minute what I'll be doing here. I've probably heard most of the questions you're going to ask. I don't know what they are now, but I've been doing this so long, and I do a monthly Q&A, taking questions live on my own podcasts, and the questions often are similar. But I've learned that I don't ever want to assume I have the answer, because depending on the group and who's tuning in, those in spirit know what they need to hear. So the answer is going to differ a little every time. The basic facts will be the same, but the way it's delivered will be different. So every time you ask a question, I know what I think is the answer, but I just do a little shift and allow my guides to talk with me. If I were doing pure channeling, I would close my eyes and my voice would actually change a bit and they would answer directly, but I'm going to be the intermediary today. But all of the answers will come from definitely a higher dimension.
All right, first question. It's about the afterlife. Sometimes when a loved one passes, why do we not get any form of communication that they are okay?
All right. There are so many different reasons for that, but some of the more common would be that your loved one needs a bit of time to adjust and learn how to communicate. So just give them some space. But more commonly, we are not aware of the ways that they communicate, and we may be missing their signs. Those are called after-death communications, and they include lights blinking, electronics acting unusual, songs playing with just the right lyrics that you happen to notice because you don't realize you've been snagged in your consciousness by your loved one. They very much are trying to get our attention, but if our frequency isn't attuned to their new frequency, their energy field without the physical body, we may not be able to sense them. But my work is chiefly showing people how to attune to that frequency. It's something that we work on at this side of the veil, and those across the veil are working to make sure we notice they're here.
Nice. Okay. So there is a wondering about what happens after we die. Is there a sequence of events that we go through a tunnel? Do we meet with loved ones? All of the things that we hear, out there in the world.
Yes, absolutely. There is a commonality, and all you have to do is read the thousands of reports of people who have had near-death experiences to read about the tunnel that people seem to experience. But generally, most people are aware instantly that they're not in their body anymore. And most importantly, that they're still aware of being, of existing. And all we have to do is shift our focus without the body and say, well, how do I operate in this reality? It's very much like lucid dreaming, when you suddenly realize, hey, I'm not awake, but I'm dreaming and I can kind of control this situation. These are just different states of consciousness. So once you're out of the body, you no longer have the brain's filters, and you can actually visit multiple people here at once. Whatever you wish to create is instantly created, like in a lucid dream. But the reality you find yourself in, so we hear, is very solid to those that are in it, just like our reality is solid, but it's not solid to those across the veil, if that makes sense. But people can continue to do things they love to do here, and I've gotten evidence to that effect in some of my sessions, until they no longer derive pleasure from that and want to go do something else. And so it's very much a creative realm, but one in which you're creating with consciousness, and the effects are instantaneous.
So you say they're instantaneous. Is there ever a time, do you think, that they feel as though they want to believe so badly that they're still here on planet Earth, that they've convinced themselves that they are, and that they work to that end anyway?
That does happen, but it's rare, because we all do have helpers across the realm. We call them spirit guides, and they are trying to get through to you. Hey, it's time to pay attention to where you are now. And so those people who are still hanging around here more so in awareness than the non-physical realm are not stuck. They're literally perhaps just a little confused for a while, or making a choice to hang out here. That word stuck really puts fear in people's minds here, that my loved one is stuck in this netherland, and it's really not like that. We all have a choice at any moment to decide, that's right, I can continue having pleasant experiences and still visit my loved ones here at the same time.
Okay, so and we also hear that time is different from where they are, from where we are, and that is that true?
It is true. Oops, I bumped something. Just give me a second. Easy to get it back. There we go. The best way to understand that is, again, to think of your dreams. Are you aware of time passing in your dreams? Not at all. You just instantly in one place or the next, there's no sense of a past or a future. It's all just happening. And that's what it's like in the astral realm.
Okay, so is there a special place for certain souls to go who had certain belief systems?
Let's not use the word place, but use the word state of consciousness. And so we attract to ourselves across the veil experiences that are aligned with our belief system. So I'll be doing a session for someone and I'll say, oh, I see your mother was Catholic because she's showing me a rosary draped over her hand, and that's a symbol for Catholic. And she's saying, I've met Mother Mary and Jesus, and it's beautiful here, but it's so much more. Or I'll meet somebody who was Jewish and they show me that they were Jewish and they're in a place that they like, but it's so much more. So that's a really wonderful way to perceive that we continue having what we create in consciousness, but yet our lens is widened a bit.
Do we reincarnate?
If we choose to, but this is a point that most people don't realize. Most people think, okay, here's the Danny Blitz story, and I'm a soul, and I decided to reincarnate, so Danny Blitz doesn't exist anymore. That's not it at all. If you reincarnated, I, as a medium, could still tune into you. How does that work? Think of the soul like a giant sphere, and the human life you're living is a smaller sphere within that bigger sphere. Kind of like a deck of cards, and the life you're living now is one hand that the soul deals out. And those cards, that hand is played here in the earthly life, and when the physical life is over, the cards go back into the deck of cards. And the soul says, well, these cards work, but those we don't need anymore, so we're going to deal a new hand. Yet the soul, being as powerful as it is, can just put that hand back together at any time. That's why a medium could tap into any lifetime the soul is having, even if it's in a physical body now.
Okay, that answered a lot of questions.
Good. Good.
Okay, so I want to make sure I heard that right. You can actually tap into somebody who has passed on, but is actually reincarnated currently in another life.
Yes, there's a wonderful book I read once called Soul Survivor. There are two different ones. One's a movie about a Navy SEAL, and that's SOLE. But Soul Survivor, SOUL, is about a little boy who knew he was a pilot in World War II who crashed his plane and died. He had memories of being on the aircraft carrier. He recognized older gentlemen who were in his squadron who were still alive. And he went to visit that pilot's sister who was now in her 80s. When I read that in the book and I saw that little boy running down the hall and saying, well, that was my bedroom. And I remember what I had on my desk there. Clearly, he was that pilot in a previous life, but his sister's still alive here. If I, as a medium, sat with that 80-year-old sister, even with the little boy in the house, I know I could tap into the actual personality, consciousness, and active being that was her brother, that was the previous life of that little boy. Same soul.
Would that person then that is currently on this planet know that their previous incarnation is being tapped into?
That would depend on how awake they were to their soul's messages, the higher self. So this really explains my concept of higher self. If you picture like a Venn diagram of a circle with little circles inside of it, the little circles would be each individual lifetime within the soul. Your higher self is the rest of the soul beyond your individual story, your lifetime. So how much of the higher self's awareness you can embody in physical form is how much you know about your other lifetimes and what the soul is trying to get through to you.
Right. So it's completely possible
Oh, yeah.
that you could be oblivious to somebody tapping into your prior reincarnation.
Well, it's why most of us are oblivious to past lives until we do a regression and enter into an expanded state of consciousness. And here it all is, because we've now blown open the filters that are blinding us.
So what we're saying is that these different lives are, there is no time. There is just no time involved. It's maybe Danny has 20 past lives that somebody's tapping into, and yet here I am talking to you.
And yet each one of them is actually influencing the others as each life is making choices. Isn't it? It's mind-boggling, hard to wrap our heads around it in this dimension.
Yeah, yes, yeah, definitely. Okay, so is karma still a thing?
There are so many different concepts of what karma is. My understanding of karma is that, and the guide said, you can trust this, okay, is that we have certain characteristics and traits that we want to work on in a lifetime. And if we've successfully evolved beyond lower vibrations, we don't have to work on that anymore. But things that we still want to master, like patience and trust, we would carry over to a different lifetime. And that would be a task and a major thing that would keep coming up for us over and over. And we would call that karma.
So it almost seems like, if you don't really want to come back and yet you want to have it all figured out, you probably have a lot of work to do in this life.
Absolutely. Yes. So whoever pushes your buttons, thank them. They're showing you what you came here to work on.
Yeah. Whew. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not about changing them. It's about saying, why is that irritating me so much? And if you don't just wonder, if you go into a nice, peaceful state, trust that you're connected to the higher self and a source of guidance, go to the heart and say, I really would like information and insights. Why does that trigger me so much? And then with no preconceived ideas, be quiet and open and receptive. You will find out some good things. And you then have to be willing to change yourself, not the other person.
Oh, yeah. Definitely. All right. Okay, so when we pass, can we choose to go to a different planet?
The most important message is that we are all arising from one source, one field of consciousness. So that one source, call it God, spirit, the field, whatever you want to call it, is having infinite experiences on different planets as different beings, on this planet as a being. Your soul has chosen the human lineage, this experience. The same source that is in me and you and every other human is already having experiences in different planets. So why would we hop off of this one and onto that one? We're just right now, this is where the focus is.
Okay, but when you say that, why would we want to hop off? Are you referring to after we've passed, or maybe different experiences right now on this planet?
After we passed, let me just check in here. They really want me to make the point that it's all God, it's all source having experiences in consciousness. So that's a different dream, another planet. So we're curious about that because it does exist in consciousness. You can go play in that world in meditation right now. But for now, your soul has chosen the human lineage and we want to get it right. And we have a lot of work to do. So we are going to come back around and around till we all figure out, oh yeah, it's all about love.
Okay, but before, didn't we say that we had a choice to come back if we wanted to?
That's right.
Do we always have that choice?
Yes.
So if we really don't want to come back to this planet,
then clear out all your karma now by loving yourself and everyone equally, no matter what. Then you can go be a spirit guide to somebody else who hasn't learned that yet.
I wondered about that. I also heard that there's a void out there that you can just like be in forever?
That is source, the field, the pure being. And we can be in that for moments in meditation and say, this is my true state. But that gets a little boring after a while. Let's go create. And we were talking earlier, Danny, about why are we here? Why, when there's so much suffering? We are here for the fullness of life, which is an acronym in my dictionary for love in full expression. Full expression, the good and the not so good. Let's try it all. Let's roll around in it and see what works to promote more awareness that we're all connected, and see what doesn't work. And so we clash and we conflict and we say, oh, that doesn't feel so good. Next time, let's do it better. And so all of what appears to be bad is actually helping us evolve the fullness. We have to celebrate that.
Okay. So I have to say that so far, with some of what you were saying, it sounded like that if we don't want to come back, that it's conditional, that we have to be really good, loving souls right now if we don't want to come back. No?
We don't have to do anything, and we can stay in the timeless realm as long as we want. But here's the deal. Right now, so many people are experiencing the chaos, and they do want off the planet, and they're just tired of the conflict. And they forget that as souls, we knew it was going to be challenging, and we knew it would help bring more love into this reality if we come here and are tested, not because it's punishment, but because that's how we grow. So you get across the veil and without the filter of the brain blocking out awareness that we're souls, suddenly remember, it is all about love. You feel the love. You get to bask in it for a while. Trust me, it is fabulous. You can experience that here in expanded states of consciousness. But when you're immersed in it across the veil, just like here, you forget pain. You forget pain. And then you realize, let's bring this love into more experiences. Put me back in again. And you make the choice. Nobody forces you. You don't have to, if you heard me say you have to come back, that's not what I meant. Souls willingly come back because it's part of the evolution of our species.
I just get this feeling, correct me if I'm wrong, but that passing on and deciding whether or not to reincarnate is kind of like giving birth. Like we have this amnesia, and then there we go and get pregnant again and have another child. And it's like, oh yeah. So, do we just have that amnesia when we're deciding to come back again?
Oh, there's zero amnesia when you decide.
Okay.
Fully aware that pain is temporary and that growth results from it. We don't deliberately look for the pain. We know it's part of the world of duality, and that this too shall pass. We hope we'll remember tools like I teach in my Awaken Way teaching to say things such as, isn't that interesting when the world goes to hell down here? That just instantly takes you to neutral observer state where the soul can now get its guidance through to you. Isn't that interesting? I would prefer this isn't happening right now, but it is. Let me tune into guidance. What's the best way to navigate this challenge? See?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So somebody's wondering how we know when guides are speaking versus our own ego.
The guide's help will always be focused on the greatest and highest good, not just for you, but for anybody around you, whoever will be affected by any choices that you make. They can't affect your choices, but they can instill and inspire you, instill in you thoughts and inspire you with insights to make the best choices. So if you have a thought that's very self-serving or might possibly cause someone else angst, that's coming from the ego.
Okay. All right. So we've got a biologist. He says he's wondering how nature is in the afterlife.
And the guides say, more beautiful than you can imagine. And here's a great thing, biologists, you'll enjoy this. I know that our reality is based on how our physical senses perceive the world. So I got to thinking, how do dogs see the world? Through their eyes. And I reached out to a veterinary ophthalmologist and said, can you send me a photo that shows me a depiction of how dogs see colors? And they sent me a picture of parrots, and they were very muted reds and blues and yellows, kind of dull, like a gray day. And I held that next to a picture of how human beings see the same parrots, bright like the colors behind you, bright red, bright yellow, bright blues. And I looked at that and I thought, they've told me, the spirits, that the colors in the spirit world are so much more vivid and vibrant than you can imagine, kind of like the movie Avatar. But we can't imagine because our brain limits us. The physical senses only allow a certain bandwidth of visual colors. Right. So if I said to a dog, there are colors in this world right now, so much more vivid and brilliant than you can imagine. If the dog could speak, it would say, how is that possible? But you can extrapolate there and see it is possible that there are more vibrant colors in a reality where you're not limited by physical eyes.
Okay, so the biologist sees it said, but natural living here is very cruel. Half of the creatures are eating the other half. So does that mean we're going to be experiencing more cruelty in the afterlife?
We see that as cruel, but we can also take the higher perspective and see, is it part of the rule set of this reality that food is necessary? I had a woman sitting in a circle of mediums, and one medium said, I'm seeing a little red pig running along a black fence, and he belongs to somebody here. And this woman in the group was shocked, and she said, I had a pet pig when I was little. We called him Reddy the pig, and I have this memory of him running along the black fence. And the woman tuned into the soul of this pig, and the pig said, I was with you after your father slaughtered me. I saw you holding your doll and crying in the closet. I was trying to let you know I was okay. And this woman said, it's one of my worst memories. That was the family pet. My father promised me he wouldn't kill it, and he did, and made it breakfast. And she went up to her room and was crying and holding this doll. And that pig came through the medium and said, don't you understand? I came here to be food for people. I knew that was my role. So if we can treat animals humanely, that's part of our evolution. The souls of the animals know this is the rule set we signed up for here, but not to be treated inhumanely.
That's comforting. That's for sure. Back as far as the afterlife, somebody wants to know when we if you were abused in life and your abuser dies, do you ever come through in a mediumship reading to apologize for the damage they caused?
All the time. This is the beauty of mediumship, is it allows those across the veil and those here to say things face to face through a medium that they didn't have a chance to say. And those who were abusers here, certainly most of them, I hope, know they're doing wrong, but as they do it, but they do it for whatever reasons. But once they cross the veil, we do all go through what's called a life review. You see every action that you took in this life, but you feel the effects of it as if it was you. You see, for example, I harmed my child, and now you feel how that child felt, helpless and in pain. And you want nothing more than to make amends. And that's where a medium helps them say that. So for somebody like a medium like me who would know nothing about the abuse to suddenly be hearing from a father, I want to apologize for the abuse, that's incredibly healing. Many people don't want to hear from a loved one, even if the loved one wants to make amends. I had a man come through and he showed me how badly he beat his wife. She said, make him go away. I don't want to talk to him. And I said, you need to go. And he said, I just need to apologize. I told her that. She said, I don't want to hear it. And I told him she's not ready. And he thanked me for delivering the message. He withdrew, and I knew message delivered, and it's her path to find the forgiveness. Yeah, very interesting. Every connection is different, but you don't have to face somebody if you're not ready. You don't have to do that. To meet somebody who was truly evil. I could go on with other stories of that, but you will be met with love and no judgment across the veil.
If you are the abuser.
If you are the abuser, you're still met with love, but you're not, your energy field really doesn't merge back with the greater soul until it's kind of been upgraded, reprogrammed.
Does that reprogramming happen beyond the veil?
Yes, absolutely. There are guides who work to do that, to help with that, by allowing you to feel this is who you are. You were love all the time. You forgot it, or you would not have hurt anybody. So are you ready to make choices that are higher? Are you ready to make amends? There's no judgment. It's just look at the effect that it had. You really kind of failed at that task. Let's upgrade the energy here.
What I have heard many times in the past is that if you are an abuser, for instance, guess what? Your next reincarnation is going to be the abused. Karma.
I've heard that. I don't get into past lives too much, but that is an understanding of how karma works.
Right.
Except, let me just check in here, Sam. The guys say you will choose to go into situations where that's a possibility, but no soul comes into this life deliberately to harm someone. To be an abuser is a choice made from ignorance once you're in the body.
Okay, so are we saying that evil never comes in? It's always created once we're born?
Evil is present as a possibility in every situation. Evil is the result of ignorance that we're all connected and that it's all love. So that possibility is always present, and it's actually in our whole field around our planet as energy that can be picked up by a lower vibration being, but they don't come in here to do evil or be evil. No.
That's fascinating. I've read books where people swear their children came in at evil, that they came in as Satan. But what I'm hearing from you is that it's possible that very vulnerable child was open to some other sort of energy coming in once they were born.
Go with that thought much more than that an evil being came in, right? We all arise from a very benevolent source, the field of total connection. That's love, where there's no separation. We come from that and we're evolving back towards that. So the more we radiate love and connection, there's any less than positive vibration in the field has anything to grab onto.
Okay, so from your experience, is there a resounding message from those who have passed that they want us to know?
Oh, several. Number one is I am still right here. And by here, they mean right here with you, able to see what you're doing, know what you're thinking, but I'm still having my own life, only on a different channel. It's like a different TV network. And I love to use the analogy of a TV set. The TV only displays a signal of a certain channel. If the TV breaks, the signal's still here. This body is like a TV set. It displays your soul's signal. When the body breaks, doesn't work, your signal doesn't go to some planet, someplace different. It doesn't go to a different place. It's still playing the story of you, but without a body. So that's a different channel, and we can learn to attune our consciousness to those higher frequencies, but they're right here. Just like you would agree, there are hundreds of TV stations playing right here, right now. We're just not aware of them. So they want us to know we're still right here. We hear you when you talk. I'm not lost. I'm not dead and gone. That's the most important thing.
Yeah. And even if we're not necessarily feeling as though we're getting those messages, they still, like, if we could just keep remembering that.
Oh, yeah. And every session I do, those in spirit know there are certain things I want to hear. And one of them is, tell me a current event in your loved one, who's my client, in their life, so they know you're still part of their life. And it'll be something as simple as, oh, yesterday I had a spirit drop in on me that showed me my loved one was dancing in happiness alone within the last 24 hours. And indeed she was. And what a beautiful thing to know that they saw that. They really want us to know they don't miss the birth of children, the marriages, the graduation ceremonies, those big family milestones that you cry and you say, oh, I wish they knew about the grandchild. I could tell you stories about spirits that dropped in on me and said, tell them I know the child was born. Or just last week in a reading, do they know that, does my husband know that our son got married? I know he knows, but I'm going to ask anyway. So I asked and I said, yes, he says the wedding happened next to a body of water and you had live string music. She said, oh, it was next to a lake and we had a string quartet. So yeah, they know.
Okay, Suzanne, now I'm wondering, during those really private moments, are they still around? Like, how do they
They
create
can
those?
absolutely tune in, and we don't like to hear that because we have really big hangups about the body, but now they're souls. And the soul knows that's part of the what we do here, all of it, showering, going to the bathroom, having sex. I've never heard from souls reporting on watching sex. I had a hilarious thing happen about a month ago where I was giving a reading and I said, your son is showing me wrapping toilet paper around a hand like this. And he says, it looks like a bandage. And his mother goes, oh my God, this just shows his warped sense of humor. And I said, why? She said, because on the way to this reading, I stopped to go to the bathroom. I wrapped the toilet paper around like this. And I looked at my hand and I said, it looks like a bandage. And I said, well, there we go. Now everybody's going to be really hung up on people in the bathroom with us. But don't moms do that with their little kids and they don't care, right? You know, it's our hang up. I think it's that they're not prying, they're not spying. But just like if a family member is getting changed and you walk in on them in the closet because you were looking for them, oops, sorry about that, and we back off, you know.
Right. It's my hang up. Let it go.
Right. Yep.
All
And
right.
if someone gets remarried, they have a husband or died or a wife who died, yeah, the guide said they will give you your privacy. They want nothing more than your happiness. Okay.
It sounds like we have a lot of growing up that we do after we pass.
Oh, and it's so obvious right away that we miss opportunities to make higher choices while we're here. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's something to contemplate now. Like, what would I be maturing about that I'm not so mature about right now, that maybe I could just fix it right now?
That is the whole point. If we could have the life review when we lay our head on the pillow every night, if I die in my sleep, what would I have done differently? How can I not do that tomorrow? If we did that every day, okay, great. I have a guide named Brenda who just talked to me. She helps me with my readings. She was my friend here in physical form. She really worked on herself. She had a major awakening. Actually, after attending one of my presentations, her heart just cracked wide open. She hated herself her whole life. She was lesbian. She was overweight. Her father was a minister who just berated her whole life. She felt worthless. But this presentation I gave just let her know, like my coffee mug, you are so very loved. This is what Spirit wants us to know. She got it. She started to love herself. And by the time she passed from cancer, she loved herself and she loved everybody. She's one of the people I say who went to the head of the class because now she's helping me with my readings. It's stunning. She's so clear to me. And she came through to me within hours of dying. And she's the one that said to me, I'm right here, Suzanne. There is nowhere else but here. She also said, you're all walking wounded. You can see the scars in the aura from up here, but the ones you work on, they look like little glow worms because your light just shines right through them. So I hope that's part of my job is to get people to realize to die daily, to say, what if this is just a story? How can I do better? Why is that person pushing my buttons? How can I bring more love into this world? Start with yourself. See past other people's BS, which stands for belief system. You know, they hurt people. They tell us things that aren't necessarily true. Find your own truth by asking those deep inner questions that programs like yours help us to answer. And just start loving yourself. The more you do that, you don't look for love outside of yourself. It's already here. That's the soul.
Yeah. Yeah, this is a great segue into the next set of questions that we have, which is the higher self and the soul. And, one of the questions that I keep hearing a lot, and other people were asking this too, was that we're hearing that we're moving into this higher vibration here on planet Earth, first of all. And some people are of the belief that it's going to happen this year, next year. We're all just going to be maybe that higher being that we're talking about becoming after we've passed, but it's actually going to happen now. And others are saying, yeah, probably not for another 200 or 300 years. What's going on?
I'm very much a proponent of an organization called Humanities Team. And if you do nothing more from this show, then look up humanitiesteam.org and just start following their work. You will help be part of that change you're talking about, Danny. It's a shift in consciousness, but we're not all going to suddenly become angelic and float off the planet. But we're going to reach a tipping point where more people really understand what oneness actually means. That beneath the surface appearances, we are all waves in one ocean. We are all part of one field of consciousness. We are separate and one whole. And when you start really realizing that, you can't hurt anybody else. You know that what you do to others, you do to yourself. All of those deeper truths suddenly are truths at the deepest level. And that's when we will see a lessening of conflict in the world. But it isn't going to happen all of a sudden. However, more and more people are awakening, and that's very hopeful.
Yeah. Yeah, because then the question becomes, okay, you are there, I am there, all of our viewers are there, but the folks that somehow got that evil energy in them somehow and are doing evil in the world, how do you get them on board?
I don't label them evil. I see them as ignorant, and that all of a sudden stops us from judging and feeling that they're separate from us, instead of seeing them with compassion and realizing we have work to do and not pointing fingers. So it really starts with ourselves and how we see each other. So I'm really glad we're having this discussion.
Yeah, definitely. Because it's, the things that are done in the world is perceived as evil. But what I'm hearing from you
From
is,
the human perspective, but from the soul's perspective, they are growth opportunities. When you realize there's no death, and this is an ongoing evolutionary process, our soul isn't worried. This is one thing I didn't say earlier, but the soul is already whole and the soul is fine. It's just an aspect of the soul having an experience here to see what we can create that's even better than what's already been created. And we may think we're failing at this right now, but look at history. My guides jokingly but truthfully say, you were in the dark ages, now you're in the dim ages. It's still very challenging here, but it's brighter than it was. So let's get to the bright ages, but we have to do it together, realizing oneness, wholeness, not by pointing fingers and saying they're still an evil person. No, that's somebody that needs our love, our understanding, not our approval of the action, but let's show them who they really are.
which is love, not putting a mirror on what they're doing.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so when does the soul enter the body, the physical body? Is it at a certain time in utero?
The soul really doesn't enter the body. The body is a creation of the soul. If you pictured this as a virtual reality, a simulation, it's really arising in the consciousness of the soul, of the one mind. It's arising. And you realize that meditation is like taking off the headset. So we actually think the soul enters this physical body. It's all an energetic information exchange that's happening. And suddenly in awareness, there's a body. So I could go really deep, but I don't want to perpetuate the myth that the body's here and then the soul enters it. That's how it appears, but it's a simulation.
So then similarly, when the physical body dies, then what's going on with the soul?
The consciousness of the soul no longer animates the body. So in our human terms, we say the soul withdraws from the body. That's how we explain it. But the consciousness is no longer animating the body. And without that, the body dissolves in our reality into ashes to ashes, dust to dust. And the soul still exists. It's still running the program.
So does this mean that if we want to reincarnate, we can actually choose what our body looks like and the abilities it has and doesn't have?
That's why we choose the parents we do and the DNA.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
And I can only tell you that this is what I'm tapping into, is the information I'm getting. Everybody, I can't tell you this is absolute truth. It still has to go through my filters. I'm doing my best to bypass my filters and tune in everything I say. How does this feel? And that's all I can ask all of you to say. How does it feel? If it's making you squirm a little, that's actually a good thing. That means maybe you can do your own questioning and get answers that feel right to you.
Yeah. Okay. I think you've pretty much answered this one already, but I want to make sure that we didn't miss anything. What is the single most important thing that a person can do on a daily basis, on an individual level, to help contribute to the raising of the vibration of humanity?
The greatest challenge we face is the misperception that we are separate from each other and from our source. So anything that you can do to accentuate in your awareness and bring into your knowing that you are part of each other and all that is the best thing you can do. So that may be different for each person. For me, it's sitting in the silence and tapping into expanded states where I experience the oneness. For others, it may be expressing gratitude. For others, they may be at a point where they simply need to read more about quantum physics and the field and understand at a science level how we're all connected, and then follow the breadcrumbs from there. So the answer is going to be different about what each person does, but the bottom line does not change. It's our ignorance of our innate interconnectedness that is causing our suffering.
Well, kind of along those lines, the question comes in, how can I live in expanded states of consciousness in every moment?
Set that as your intention. Commit to doing the work, spending times in expanded states of consciousness, and enjoy every minute and don't expect perfection. I've been doing this for 15 years and I've finally gotten to this absolutely awesome state of flow. And I'm still not remembering every moment, and yet things are just falling into place, and I am able to maintain soul awareness so much more than ever in the past. And yet I know there's so much more to go. So it's just a matter of setting that intention, remaining committed to the path, and going easy on yourself.
Here's an interesting question. Why do folks who had a near-death experience say that often they no longer feel any strong connection to those still living here?
Near-death experiences are often very brief in human time, and there's much that has to be transmitted to them in the brief time that the soul knows it's going to be in that experience, because the soul knows it's going back. So they give them a wow wake-up experience across the veil that they will remember and take back with them. But if they were going to stay, they would have much more of that awareness of their loved ones here.
That makes a lot of sense. So
that's the first time I ever got that question. That was a good one. I can tell by the way I'm talking that this is a group answer. It's very cool.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. So we've got somebody is wanting to know how she can differentiate between psychic info and medium info.
Yes. Psychic means, many people thinks it means reading the future. A psychic sees your future. That's actually prophecy. Psychic work means you're tuning into information at this level of the bandwidth of consciousness, human energy fields. So psychically, I could tune into your energy field, Danny, and know all kinds of things about you, see what's in your immediate future. If I were truly able to do prophecy, which I haven't focused on, we might see farther down. But psychic is what's happening here, picking it up from this channel, say. But mediumship is tuning into a different channel, a different octave of consciousness, loved ones who have passed, and people's guides, which is a different frequency as well. You come to know the difference because psychic work is not interactive. The information is simply present. You feel it, you know it. Whereas with mediumship and guides, you're having conversations. It's interactive. It's funny sometimes. It's creative, imaginative versus just tapping into data.
Oh boy, I sure hope that helped. Yeah, I think that was really clear. There's a question about right now on this planet, and maybe not at this very moment, but through the course of your time, Suzanne, have you ever felt like you're existing in multiple dimensions?
I haven't had that simultaneously, but in adventures in consciousness that I've had in meditation, I've absolutely gone to different dimensions and experienced that. At the same time, I'm aware at times that I'm still sitting in the chair, so that you could fit the bill of what you're describing there. Yeah.
So when you are experiencing these different dimensions, it's got to feel different. It's got to feel like, okay, here I am now, Suzanne, and I've got to kind of readjust to feel like Suzanne again.
Like when I channel my guides and I go completely into an expanded state and they talk through me, coming back here is a letdown for sure. It's blissful in those expanded states. And it's like a high. I've never used drugs, but it's just, I'm high for about 20 minutes and then crash. So yeah, it definitely feels different. Wonderful.
And how do you adjust?
Chocolate. No, you just take deep breaths and just slowly come back down and don't operate heavy machinery. You just have to get grounded, and really it does help to put your feet in the grass, go outside, wash your hands, become more aware of the physical body. That's why chocolate helps.
Yeah, for sure. So it's almost like have something ready to go if you're planning on traveling for a while to come back and feel good about being back.
Yeah, I actually just led a cruise to the Mediterranean with members of our Wake and Wake community. And I was on stage for 7 workshops for 2 hours. And usually I'd be popping chocolates after every time. And my assistant, is part of our joke, she would be the one to feed me, here, you ready for the chocolate? And on this trip, I said, no chocolate. And she looked stunned. She said, no chocolate. And I said, my guides actually told me it only adds to the up and down, because my physical body then has to adjust to the sugar. And so I used no chocolate, and I just sent gratitude out and got centered with the breath. And really I did experience fewer ups and downs. So the chocolate thing is funny, but it works, but it doesn't help your physical body.
Okay, so that's good advice from somebody who knows. Don't go to the chocolate. All right.
I will tell you that I love a glass of wine every night with my husband. And the more I've gotten sensitive, the less I can tolerate. So my glass of wine is really only like this these days. But if I have done a channeling session, I can't drink any wine. I get a massive headache within hours. And that's because that energy is much lower than the higher energy that was flowing through me. So people ask, should I change my diet if I want to tap into loved ones and tap into the higher realms? Yeah. My guide said eliminate white powdery substances, which makes us laugh, like cocaine. Yeah, absolutely. But eliminate the sugar and not so much salt, and just be aware of treating your body in balance. I wouldn't eat a heavy meal before I channeled or worked. So they say each person's body is different, so they're not going to dictate a diet, but your body will tell you what it needs for balance. It has its own intelligence.
It sounds like you can even experiment. So if you're having a hard time getting through or connecting or getting messages, whatever, try a different diet. Like look at your diet.
Yes, absolutely. There's so many factors that go into our connections. So I teach mediumship, and the students will say, well, do I do this or do I do that? Will my medications affect me? Each person is different. So also our belief system, if you believe that's going to affect you, it will.
Right. So then change the belief system if you can, if you
can. Yep.
Yeah, that can go pretty deep. So somebody wants to know how we can begin on the path of communicating with loved ones across the veil.
Begin with examining your belief. Hopefully I'm helping you understand they really are here. So examine your belief. Do you believe you could connect with them? That's a start. Set a very clear intention and tell them from your heart. Communicate knowing they're hearing you, or at least believing at this point. Aim for knowing. I am now going to do my best to connect with you. And then spend a few minutes each day sitting quietly saying, let me feel your presence. Let me hear from you now. And be quiet and listen and watch. And you'll start to notice your own thoughts, and you'll say, oh, that's my to-do list. Let it go. Go back to listening. Oh, that's me doubting that's going to happen. Let it go. Go back to listening and watching. That in itself is the training process. That's how you start. I have recordings called hemisync recordings. They have binaural beats in them, channeled by my guides. The guidance really helps us get expanded states of consciousness more rapidly than regular meditation. So that's another tool that has really helped people. But try my Sip of the Divine meditation. It's on YouTube. Just enter my name or just Sip of the Divine. It'll come up. 3 minutes a day. Start doing that every day, and you will be training yourself to notice when your loved ones speak to you. Then I have all kinds of courses online. I've taught literally thousands of people who have breakthroughs all the time. But be very patient, be committed, and expect the unexpected. I will tell you, my stepdaughter held back for 3 years. I was so committed to hearing from her. Every day I sat, Susan, reveal yourself to me. She did not come through, but other people's loved ones and my guides started coming through. I couldn't deny it. I was getting evidence. I started doing readings for other people. Still no Susan. Then she finally came through with stunning evidence. I couldn't deny it was her. And she later said, if I had come through right away, you would have said, great, here you are. No more meditating. I would have stopped. So instead, she knew I needed to really open up and develop my abilities, because I wasn't going to give up waiting for her. So don't think you're necessarily doing something wrong if you don't hear from your loved one. There is a bigger picture and your soul has it. So just follow that soul prompting to just be committed to the process.
That is encouraging. And Suzanne, I knew this hour was going to whiz by. Please tell us what you've got out there in the world. You were starting to tell me about your new book, the classes. How can people...
I have a book that came out 6 months ago, The Awakened Way. This is the real foundational elements of the soul with lots of great practices. This one, Mediumship, launches Tuesday, October 22nd. If you watch this before October 22nd and pre-order, enter your receipt on the books page at SuzanneGiesemann.com, and you'll get a link to a channeling session with me online live. That's just a little bonus. I have an Awakened Way app. You go on your smartphone and enter Awakened Way. It's free, and you get daily inspiration from the guides who were talking to us today. I'm taking another group to the Caribbean on a cruise in the spring. A couple of conferences coming up, monthly webinars. All of that's on my website, SuzanneGiesemann.com.
You were so busy, and I can't believe you just fit all that in like what, 15 seconds? Thank you so much for being here. I know our viewers are so pleased with everything that you offered. I think it was very, very helpful.
I hope it opened up some minds and got you curious to want to know more, because guides want you to know all of this.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.